Okay, good afternoon. I hope I'm still connected. And let's get this the way I need it so that I can see what I'm doing. Okay, so this afternoon I'm going to read from the Red Book by C.G. Jung, a reader's edition. And I'm reading part 2 of the chapter entitled The Magician, which is about 70 pages long. There's 7 parts to it. So today I'm going to read part 2, which is 14 pages long. And so this segment begins on page 403 and goes to page 417. And so this is the segment. It is an error to believe that there are magical practices that one can learn. One cannot understand magic. One can only understand what accords with reason. Magic accords with unreason, which one cannot understand. The world accords not only with reason, but also with unreason. But just as one employs reason to make sense of the world, in that way is reasonable about But just as one employs reason to make sense of the world, in that what is reasonable about it approaches reason, a lack of understanding also accords with unreason. This meeting is magical and eludes comprehension. Magical understanding is what one calls non-comprehension. Everything that works magically is incomprehensible, and the incomprehensible often works magically. One calls incomprehensible workings magical. The magical always surrounds me, always involves me. It opens spaces that have no doors and leads out into the open where there is no exit. The magical is good and evil, and neither good nor evil. Magic is dangerous, since what accords with unreason confuses, allures, and provokes, and I am always its first victim. Where reason abides, one needs no magic. Hence, our time no longer needs magic. Only those without reason needed it to replace their lack of reason, but it is thoroughly unreasonable to bring together what suits reason with magic, since they have nothing to do with one another. Both become spoiled through being brought together. Therefore, all those lacking reason quite rightly fall into superfluity and disregard. Therefore, all those lacking reason quite rightly fall into superfluity and disregard. A rational man of this time will therefore never use magic. But it is another thing for whoever has opened the chaos in himself. We need magic to be able to receive or invoke the messenger and the communication of the incomprehensible. Let me read that again. We need magic to be able to receive or invoke the messenger and the communication of the incomprehensible. We recognize that the world comprises reason and unreason, and we also understood that our way needs not only reason, but also unreason. This distinction is arbitrary and depends upon the level of comprehension. But one can be certain that the greater part of the world eludes our understanding. We must value the incomprehensible and unreasonable equally, although they are not necessarily equal in themselves. A part of the incomprehensible, however, is only presently incomprehensible and might already concur with reason tomorrow. But as long as one does not understand it, it remains unreasonable. Insofar as the incomprehensible accords with reason, one may try to think it with success, but insofar as it is unreasonable, One needs magical practices to open it up. The practice of magic consists in making what is not understood understandable in an incomprehensible manner. The magical way is not arbitrary, since that would be understandable. The magical way is not arbitrary, since that would be understandable, but it arises from incomprehensible grounds. Besides, to speak of grounds is incorrect, since grounds concur with reason. Nor can one speak of the groundless, since hardly anything further can be said about this. The magical way arises by itself. If one opens up chaos, magic also arises. One can teach the way that leads to chaos, but one cannot teach magic. One can only remain silent about this, which seems to be the best apprenticeship. This view is confusing, but this is what magic is like. Where reason establishes order and clarity, magic causes disarray and a lack of clarity. One indeed needs reason for the magical translation of the not understood into the understandable, since only by means of reason can the understandable be created. No one can say how to use reason, but it does arise if one tries to express only what is opening of chaos. But it does arise if one tries to express only what an opening of chaos means. Magic is a way of living. If one has done one's best to steer the chariot, and one then notices that a greater other is actually steering it, then magical operation takes place. One cannot say what the effect of magic will be, since no one can know it in advance, because the magical is the lawless, which occurs without rules and by chance, so to speak. But the condition is that one totally accepts it and does not reject it, in order to transfer everything to the growth of the tree. Stupidity, too, is part of this, which everyone has a great deal of, and also tastelessness, which is possibly the greatest nuisance. Sorry, let me read that again. I have to get a grip. Stupidity, too, is part of this, which everyone has a great deal of, and also tastelessness, which is possibly the greatest nuisance. Thus, a certain solitude and isolation are inescapable conditions of life for the well-being of oneself and the other. Otherwise, one cannot sufficiently be oneself. A certain slowness of life, which is still a standstill, will be unavoidable. The uncertainty of such a life will most probably be its greatest burden, but still I must unite the two conflicting powers of my soul and keep them together in a true marriage until the end of my life, since the magician is called Philemon and his wife Baucis. I hold together what Christ has kept apart in himself and through his example in others, since the more the one half of my being strives toward the good, the more the other half journeys to hell. When the month of the twins had ended, the men said to their shadows, "You are I," since they had previously had their spirit around them as a second person. Thus the two became one, and through this collision, the formidable broke out. Precisely that spring of consciousness that one calls culture, and which lasted until the time of Christ. But the fish indicated the moment when what was united split, according to the eternal law of contrasts, into an underworld and an upper world. If the power of growth begins to cease, Then the united falls into its opposite. Christ sent what is beneath to hell, since he strives toward the good. That had to be, but the separated cannot remain separated forever. It will be united again, and the month of the fish will soon be over. We suspect and understand that growth needs both, and hence we keep good and evil close together, because we know that too far into the good means the same as too far into evil. We keep them both together. But we thus lose direction, and things no longer flow from the mountain to the valley, but grow quietly from the valley to the mountain. That which we can no longer prevent or hide is our fruit. The flowing stream becomes a lake and an ocean that has no outlet unless its water rises to the sky as steam and falls from the clouds as rain. While the sea is a death, it is also the place of rising. Such is Philemon, who tends his garden. Our hands have been tied, and each must sit quietly in his place. He rises invisibly and falls as rain on distant lands. The water on the ground is no cloud, which should rain. Only pregnant women can give birth, not those who have yet to conceive. But what mystery are you intimating to me with your name, O Philemon? Truly you are the lover who once took in the gods as they wandered the earth when everyone else refused to give them lodging. You are the one who unsuspectingly gave hospitality to the gods. They thanked you by transforming your house into a golden temple, while the flood swallowed everyone else. You remained alive when chaos erupted. You it was who served in the sanctuary when the peoples called out in vain to the gods. Truly it is the lover who survives. Why did you not see that? Why did we not see that? And just when did the gods manifest? Precisely when Bacchus wished to serve the esteemed guests, her only goose. Read that again. And just when did the gods manifest? Precisely when Bacchus wished to serve the esteemed guests, her only goose, that blessed stupidity. The animal fled to the gods, who then revealed themselves to their poor hosts, who had given their last. Thus I saw that the lover survives, and that he is the one who unwittingly grants hospitality to the gods. Oh, truly, O Philemon, I did not see that your hut is a temple, and that you, Philemon and Bacchus, serve in the sanctuary. This magical power allows itself to be neither taught nor learned. Either one has it or does not have it. Now I know your final mystery. You are a lover. You have succeeded in uniting what has been sundered, that is, binding together the above and the below. Have we not known this for a long time? Yes, we knew it. No, we did not know it. It has always been this way, and yet it has never been thus. Why did I have to wander such long roads before I came to Philemon? If he was going to teach me what has been common knowledge for ages, why did I have to wander such long roads before I came to Philemon if he was going to teach me what has been common knowledge for ages? Alas, we have known everything since time immemorial, and yet we will never know it until it has been accomplished. Who exhausts the mystery of love? Under which mask, O Philemon, are you hiding? You did not strike me as a lover, But my eyes were opened, and I saw that you are a lover of your soul, who anxiously and jealously guards its treasure. There are those There are those who love men, and those who love the souls of men, and those who love their own soul. Such a one is Philemon and the host of the gods. You lie in the sun, O Philemon, like a serpent that coils around itself. Your wisdom is the wisdom of serpents, cold with a grain of poison, yet healing in small doses. Yet healing in small doses. Your magic paralyzes and therefore makes strong people who tear themselves away from themselves. But do they love you? Are they thankful, lover of your own soul? Or do they curse you for your magical serpent poison? Why keep their distance, shaking their heads and whispering together? I'm sorry. They keep their distance. They keep their distance, shaking their heads and whispering together. Are you still a man, Philemon, or is one not a man until one is a lover of one's own soul? You are hospitable. You are hospitable, Philemon. You took the dirty wanderers unsuspectingly into your house. Your house then became a gold temple. And did I really leave your table unsatisfied? What did you give me? Did you invite me for a meal? You shimmered multicolored and inextricable. Nowhere did you give yourself to me as prey. You escaped my grasp. I found you nowhere. Are you still a man? Your kind is far more serpent-like. I sought to grab hold of you and tear it out of you, and since the Christians have learned to devour their God, and how long will it take for what happens to the God also to happen to man? I look into the vast land and hear nothing but wailing and see nothing but men consuming each other. O Philemon, you are no Christian. You did not let yourself be engorged and did not engorge me. Because of this, you have neither lecture halls nor columned halls teeming with students who stand around and speak of the master and soak up his words like the elixir of life. You are no Christian and no pagan, but a hospitable, inhospitable one, a host of the gods, a survivor, an eternal one, the father of all eternal wisdom. But did I really leave you unsatisfied? No, I left you because I was really satisfied. Yet what did I eat? Your words gave me nothing. Your words left me to myself and my doubt. And so I ate myself. And because of this, O Philemon, you are no Christian, since you nourish yourself with yourself and force men to do the same. This displeases them most. This displeases them most, since nothing disgusts the human animal more than itself. Because of this, they would rather eat all crawling, hopping, swimming, and flying creatures, yes, even their own species, before they nibble at themselves. But this nourishment is effective, and one is soon satiated from it. Because of this, O Philemon, we rise satiated from your table. Your way, O Philemon, is instructive. You leave me in a salutary darkness, where there is nothing for me either to see or look for. You are no light that shines in the darkness, no savior who establishes an eternal truth and thus extinguishes the nocturnal light of human understanding. You leave room for the stupidity and the jokes of others. You do not want, O blessed one, anything from the other, but instead you tend the flowers in your own garden. He who needs you asks you, and O clever Philemon, I, sup- I suppose that you also ask those from whom you need something, and that you pay for what you receive. Christ was Christ has made men desirous forever Christ has made men desirous forever, since they expect gifts from their saviors without any service in return. Giving is as childish as power. He who gives presumes himself powerful. The virtue of giving is the sky blue mantle of the tyrant. You are wise, O Philemon, you do not give. You want your garden to bloom and for everything to grow from within itself. I praise, O Philemon, your lack of acting like a savior. You are no shepherd who runs after stray sheep, since you believe in the dignity of man, who is not necessarily a sheep. But if he happens to be a sheep, you would leave him the rights and dignity of sheep, since why should sheep be made into men? There are still more than enough of men. You know, O Philemon, the wisdom of things to come. Therefore you are old, oh so very ancient. And just as you tower above me in years, so you tower above the present in futurity, and the length of your past is immeasurable. You are legendary and unreachable. You were and will be returning periodically. Your wisdom is invisible. Your truth is unknowable, entirely untrue in any given age, and yet true in all eternity. But you pour out your living water, from which the flowers of your garden bloom, a starry water, a dew of the night. What do you need, O Philemon? You need men for the sake of small things, since everything greater and the greatest thing is in you. Christ spoiled men, since he taught them that they can be saved only by one, namely him, the Son of God. And ever since, men have been demanding the greater things from others, especially their salvation. And if a sheep gets lost somewhere, it accuses the shepherd. O Philemon, you are a man, and you prove that men are not sheep, since you look after the greatest in yourself, and hence fructifying water flows into your garden from inexhaustible jugs. You are lonely, O Philemon. I see no entourage and no companions around you. Bacchus is only your other half. You live with flowers, trees, and birds, but not with men. Should you not live with men? Are you still a man? Do you want nothing from men? Do you not see how they stand together and concoct rumors and childish fairy tales about you? Do you not want to go to them and say that you are a man and immortal as they are, and that you want to love them? O Philemon, you laugh. I understand you. Just now I ran into your garden and wanted to tear out of you what I had to understand from within myself. O Philemon, I understand. Immediately I made you into a savior who lets himself be consumed and bound with gifts. That's what men are like, you think. They are all still Christians, but they want even more. They want you as you are. Otherwise, you would not be Philemon to them, and they would be inconsolable if you could find no bearer for their legends. Hence, they would also laugh if you approached them and said you were as mortal as they are and want to love them. If you did that, you would not be Philemon. They want you, Philemon, but not another mortal who suffers from the same ills as they do. I understand you, O Philemon. You are a true lover, since you love your soul for the sake of men, because they need a king who lives from himself and owes no one gratitude for his life. They want to have you thus. You fulfill the wish of people and you vanish. You are a vessel of fables. You would besmirch yourself if you went to men as a man, since they would all laugh and call you a liar and a swindler, since Philemon is not a man. Sorry, this is hypnotizing me a little. Six more pages. I saw, O Philemon, that crease in your face. You were young once and wanted to be a man among men, but the Christian animals did not love your pagan humanity, since they felt in you what they needed. They always sought the branded one, and when they caught him somewhere in freedom, they locked him in a golden cage and took from him the force of his masculinity, so that he was paralyzed and sat in silence. Then they praise him and devise fables about him. I know they call this veneration, and if they do not find the true one, they at least have a pope whose occupation it is to represent the divine comedy. But the true one always disowns himself, since he knows nothing higher than to be a man. Are you laughing, O Philemon? I understand you. It irked you to be a man like others, and because you truly loved being human, you voluntarily locked it away so that you could be for men at least what they wanted to have from you. Therefore I see you, O Philemon, not with men, but wholly with flowers, the trees and the birds, and all waters flowing and still that do not besmirch your humanity. For you are not Philemon to the flowers, trees, and birds, but a man. Yet what solitude, what inhumanity. Why are you laughing, O Philemon? I cannot fathom you, but do I not see the blue air of your garden? What happy shades surround you? Does the sun hatch blue midday specters around you? Are you laughing, O Philemon? Alas, I understand you. I understand you. Humanity has completely faded for you, but its shadow has arisen for you. How much greater and happier the shadow of humanity is than it is itself. The blue midday shadows of the dead. Alas, there is your humanity, O Philemon. You are a teacher and friend of the dead. They stand sighing in the shadow of your house. They live under the branches of your trees. They drink the dew of your tears. They warm themselves in the goodness of your heart. They hunger under the words of your wisdom, which sounds full to them, the full of the sounds of life. I saw you, O Philemon, at the noonday hour when the sun stood highest. You stood, I'll read that part of that again. I saw you, O Philemon, at the noonday hour when the sun stood highest. You stood speaking with blue shade. Blood stuck to its forehead and solemn torment darkened it. I can guess, O Philemon, who your midday guest was. How blind I was, fool that I am. That is you, O Philemon, but who am I? I go my way shaking my head, and people's looks follow me, and I remain silent. Oh, despairing silence. Okay. O master of the garden, I see your dark tree from afar in the shimmering sun. My street leads to the valleys where men live. I am a wandering beggar and I remain silent. Killing off would-be prophets is a gain for the people. If they want murder, then may they kill their false prophets. If the month of the gods remains silent, then each can listen to his own speech. He who loves the people remains silent. If only false teachers teach, the people will kill the false teachers and will fall into the truth even on the way of their sins. Only after the darkest night will it be day. So cover the lights and remain silent so that the night will become dark and noiseless. The sun rises without our help. Only he who knows the darkest error knows what is light. O master of the garden, your magical grove shown to me from afar. I venerate your deceptive mantle, your father of all will-o'-the-wisps. Your father of all will-o'-the-wisps. I continue on my way, accompanied by a finely polished piece of steel, hardened in 10 fires, stowed safely in my robe. Secretly, I wear chainmail under my coat. Overnight, I became fond of serpents, and I solved their riddle. I sit down next to them on the hot stones lying by the wayside. I know how to catch them. I know how to catch them cunningly and cruelly, those cold spirits that prick the heel of the unsuspecting. I became their friend and played a soft tonal flute, but I decorate my cave with their dazzling skins. As I walked on my way, I came to a red rock on which a great iridescent serpent lay. Since I had now learned magic from Philemon, I took out my flute again and played a sweet magical song to make her believe that she was my soul when she was sufficiently enchanted. Okay, this wants me to give you image number 155, which I think is the image in the thumbnail. I will just check that and give it to you. Ah, here she is. Yes. This is the she about whom Dr. Jung is speaking. So I'll go back a couple of sentences here. Thank you, Dr. Russell. I appreciate your comment very much. So here's what he was saying. Since I had now learned magic from Philemon, I took out my flute again and played a sweet magical song to make her believe that she was my soul. When she was sufficiently enchanted, I spoke to her, my sister, my soul, what do you say? But she spoke flattered and therefore tolerantly. I let grass grow over everything that you do. That sounds comforting and seems not to say much. Soul, would you like me to say much? I can also be banal, as you know, and let myself be satisfied that way. That seems hard to me. I believe that you stand in a close connection with everything beyond, with what is greatest and most uncommon. Therefore, I thought that banality would be foreign to you. Soul, banality is my element. That would be less astonishing if I said it about myself. Soul, the more uncommon you are, the more common I can be. A true respite for me. I think you can sense that I don't need to torment myself today. I can feel it, and I'm worried that your tree will ultimately bear me no more fruit. Soul, worried already? Don't be stupid and let me rest. I notice that you like being banal, but I do not take you to heart, my dear friend, since I now know you much better than before. Soul, you're getting to be familiar. I'm afraid that you are beginning to lose respect. I, are you upset? I believe that would be uncalled for. I'm sufficiently well informed about the proximity of pathos and banality. Soul. So have you noticed that the becoming of the soul follows a serpentine path? Have you seen how soon day becomes night and night day? How water and dry land change places, and that everything spasmodic is merely destructive? I. I believe that I saw all this. I want to lie in the sun on this warm stone for a while. Perhaps the sun will incubate me. But the serpent crept up to me quietly and wound herself smoothly around my feet. Evening fell and night came. I spoke to the serpent and said, I don't know what to say. All pots are on the boil. Soul, a meal is being prepared. I, a last supper, I suppose. Soul, a union with all humanity. I, a horrifying sweet thought to be both guest and dish at this meal. Soul, that was also Christ's highest pleasure. I, how holy, how sinful, how everything hot and cold flows into one another. Madness and reason want to be married. The lamb and the wolf graze peacefully side by side. It is all yes and no. The opposites embrace each other, see eye to eye, and intermingle. They recognize their oneness in agonizing pleasure. My heart is filled with wild battle. The waves of dark and bright rivers rush together, one crashing over the other. I have never experienced this before. Soul, that is new, my dear one, at least for you. I suppose you are mocking me, but tears and laughter are one. I no longer feel like either, and I am rigid with tension. Loving reaches up to heaven, and resisting reaches just as high. They are entwined and will not let go of each other, since the excessive tension seems to indicate the ultimate and highest possibility of feeling. Soul, you express yourself emotionally and philosophically. You know that one can say all this much more simply. For example, one can say that you have fallen in love all the way from the worm up to Tristan and Isolde. Yes, I know, but nonetheless, soul, religion is still tormenting you, it seems. How many shields do you still need? Much better to say it straight out. I, you're not tripping me up. Soul, well, what is it with mortality? Have more, I'm sorry. Soul, well, what is it with morality? Have morality and immorality also become one today? You're mocking me, my sister and chthonic devil. But I must say that those two that rose up to heaven entwined are also good and evil. I'm not joking, but I groan because joy and pain sound shrill together. Soul, where then is your understanding? You've gone utterly stupid. After all, you could resolve everything by thinking. I, my understanding, my thinking? No, I no longer have any understanding. It has grown impervious to me. Soul, you deny everything that you believed. You've completely forgotten who you are. You even deny Faust, who walked calmly past all the specters. I'm no longer up to this. My spirit, too, is a specter. Soul, I see you follow my teaching. Unfortunately, that's the case, and it has benefited me with painful joy. Soul, you turn your pain into pleasure. You are twisted, blinded. You suffer, you fool. This misfortune ought to make me happy. The serpent now became angry and tried to bite my heart, but my secret armor broke her poisonous fangs. She drew back, astonished, and said, hissing, "You actually behave as if you were unfathomable." That's because I have studied the art of stepping from the left foot onto the right and vice versa, which others have done unthinkingly from time immemorial. The serpent raised herself again as if accidentally, holding her tail in front of her mouth so that I should not see the broken fang. Proudly and calmly, she said, "So you have finally noticed this." But I spoke to her smilingly. The sinuous line of life could not escape me in the long run. Okay, so that's the end of that segment. So that image that I was showing you is an anima figure. I'm now going to go back and read through the footnotes, and the footnotes are quite extensive in this 14-page segment. So let me share this with you. Okay, so I'm reading the footnotes to the second segment of The Magician from Jung's Red Book, the Red Book, a reader's edition. And I'm on page 403. What I'm going to do is read for you I'm going to read the text passage, and then I'm going to follow that by reading the note so that you can follow along with that. So the text, this comes before the text, at the beginning of this text. Jung's marginal note to the calligraphic volume, January 1924. This seems to refer to when this passage was transcribed into the calligraphic volume. The writing at this point gets larger, with more space between the words. At this time, Carrie Baines commenced her transcription. And then the text reads, "A rational man of this time will therefore never use magic." And the footnote reads, in Psychological Types, 1921, Jung wrote, "Reason can only give one equilibrium if one's reason is already an equilibrating organ. As a rule, man needs the opposite of his actual condition to force him to find his place in the middle." Collected Works 6, paragraph 386. The text reads, "Where reason establishes order and clarity, magic causes disarray and a lack of clarity." And the footnote reads, the draft continues, "Magical practice hence falls into two parts. First, developing an understanding of chaos, and second, translating the essence into what can be understood." And then the text reads, "No one can say how to use reason, but it does arise if one tries to express only what an opening of chaos means." And the footnote reads, the draft continues, "Reason takes up only a very small share of magic. This will offend you. Age and experience are needed. The rash desirousness and fear of youth, as well as its necessary virtuousness, disturb the secret interplay of God and the devil. You are then all too easily torn to one side or the other, blinded or paralyzed. And then on page 485, the text reads, "Thus the two became one, and through this collision the formidable broke out. Precisely that spring of consciousness that one calls culture, and which lasted until the time of Christ." And the footnote reads, "The references to the astrological conception of the Platonic month, or Ion." I guess we could pronounce that Aeon. Mind you, there's in Jungian psychology, there's Ion, Aeon, and Eon. So you have to be careful. But anyway, the footnote reads, "The reference to the astronomical conception of the Platonic month, or Eon, of Pisces, which is based on the precession of the equinoxes. Each Platonic month consists of one zodiacal sign and lasts approximately 2,300 years. Jung discusses the symbolism attached to this in Ion, 1951, Collected Works 6, Chapter 6. He notes, except Ion is not Collected Works 6, it's Collected Works 9-2. He notes that around 7 BC, there was a conjunction of Saturn and Jupiter, representing a union of extreme opposites, which would place the birth of Christ under Pisces. Pisces, Latin for fishes, is known as the sign of the fish and is often represented by two fish swimming in opposite directions. On the Platonic months, see Alice Howell, Jungian Synchronicity in Astrological Signs and Ages, 1990, page 125 and following. Jung started studying astrology in 1911 in the course of his study of mythology and learned to cast horoscopes. Jung to Freud, May 8, 1911, the Jung-Freud Letters, page 421. In terms of Jung's sources for the history of astrology, he cited Auguste Boucher Leclerc's L'Astrologie Grecque in 9 occasions in his later works. Paris, published by Ernest Leroux, 1899. The text reads on page 406, "It will be united again, and the month of the fish will soon be over." The footnote reads, "This refers to the end of the Platonic month of Pisces and the beginning of the Platonic month of Aquarius. The precise dating of this is uncertain." In Ion, 1951, Jung noted, "Astrologically, the beginning of the next eon, according to the starting point you select, falls between AD 2000 and 2200. Collected Works 9-2, paragraph 149, note 88. So that was in his book, Ion. Going back to the text, because we know that too far into the good means the same as too far into evil, we keep them both together. And the footnote reads, in Ion, Jung wrote, "If, as seems probable, the eon of the fishes is ruled by the archetypal motif of the hostile brothers, then the approach of the next Platonic month, namely Aquarius, will constellate the problem of the union of opposites. It will then no longer be possible to write off evil as a mere privatio boni, its real existence will have to be recognized. Collected Works 9.2, paragraph 142. I just note that privatio boni is a concept of the church which says that there's no existence of evil. There's only a privation of good, which of course has its shortcomings, since it suggests that Adolf Hitler, Benito Mussolini, and Joseph Stalin were as they were simply because they didn't get enough mother's milk or something like that. That's my personal commentary on that. Good evening, Penelope in Grenada. Nice to see you. And Penelope says astrology is everywhere. Yes. Right. And so the totality, the end of the chart, and the totality of all the chart contents. Okay, I'm not sure that this is going to give you what you want from an astrological point of view, but in any case, I'm going to read it for you anyway. Okay, so the text reads, he rises invisibly and falls as rain on distant lands. And the footnote reads, the draft continues, the hibernal rains began with Christ. He taught mankind the way to heaven. We teach the way to earth. Hence, nothing has been removed from the gospel, but only added to it. Page 486. And then the next text reads, only pregnant women can give birth, not those who have not yet to conceive. And the footnote reads, the draft continues, our striving focused on sagacity and intellectual superiority, and we hence developed all our cleverness. But the extraordinary extent of stupidity inherent in all men was disregarded and denied. But if we accept the other in us, we also evoke the particular stupidity of our nature. Stupidity is one of man's strange hobby horses. There is something divine about it, and yet something of the megalomania of the world, which is why stupidity is really large. It keeps away everything that could induce us to intelligence. It leaves everything not understood, which is not naturally supposed to demand understanding. This particular stupidity occurs in thought and in life. Somewhat deaf, somewhat blind, it brings about necessary fate and keeps from us the virtuousness coupled with rationality. It is what separates and isolates the mixed seeds of life, affording us thus with a clear view of good and evil, and of what is reasonable and what not. But many people are logical in their lack of reason. Then there's on page 407, a text sentence that says, thus I saw the lover survives, and that he is the one who unwittingly grants hospitality to the gods. And the footnote reads, in this paragraph, Jung refers to the classical account of Philemon and Bacchus from the Metamorphoses by Ovid. And on page 409, the text reads, you are no light that shines in the darkness. And the footnote reads, contrast with John 1:5, where Christ is described as follows, the light shines in the darkness, but the darkness has not understood it. Okay, there's another image here, which is this it? Okay, maybe this is it. Okay, so this is the image that I'm using as a thumbnail for this series. This is where Philemon appears in the Red Book. And this is the image. And so this is highlighted in red in the Red Book, and it's also italicized. This is what it says. Before I get to that, there's another sentence that says, "O Philemon, who your midday guest was." And the footnote for that reads, Jung's fantasy of June 1, 1916, where Philemon's guest was Christ. And then there's this highlighted in red and italicized. It says, "O master of the garden, your magical grove shown to me from afar, I venerate your deceptive mantle, you father of all will-o'-the-wisps." And the footnote reads, Jung's marginal note to the calligraphic volume. The Bhagavad Gita says, whenever there is a decline of the law and an increase in iniquity, then I put forth myself for the rescue of the pious and for the destruction of the evildoers. For the establishment of the law, I am born in every age. The citation is from chapter 4, verses 7 to 8 of the Bhagavad Gita. Krishna is instructing Arjuna concerning the nature of truth. And then it highlights this image, and there's a footnote on the image. The text of the image reads, "Father of the prophet, beloved Philemon." Jung subsequently painted another version of this painting as a mural in one of the bedrooms in his tower at Bollingen. He added an inscription in Latin from the Rosarium Philosophorum, in which Hermes describes the stone as saying, "Defend me and I will defend thee. Give me my right that I may help thee. For Sol is mine, and the beams thereof are my inward parts. But Luna is proper to me, and my light excelleth all light. And my goods are higher than all goods. I give many riches and delights to men desiring them. And when I seek after anything, they acknowledge it. I make them understand, and I cause them to possess divine strength. I engender light, but my nature is darkness. Unless my metal should be dry, all bodies have need of me, because I moisten them. I blot out their rustiness and extract their substance. Therefore I and my son being joined together, there can be nothing made better nor more honorable in the whole world. Jung cited some of these lines in Psychology and Alchemy, 1944, Collected Works 12, paragraphs 99, 140, and 155. The Rosarium, first published in 1550, was one of the most important texts of the European alchemy and concerns the means of producing the philosopher's stone. It contained a series of woodcuts of symbolic figures, which was Jung's exemplar in Psychology of the Transference, explained through an alchemical series of pictures. And that's from Collected Works 16. And then there's a footnote. Let's see, now we're back to the other image, which is this one. Okay, so there's a footnote on this image. In Psychological Aspects of the Core, 1951, Jung anonymously described this image as she, XI. Then she, the anima, appears in a church, taking the place of the altar, still over life-size, but with veiled face. He commented, dream she restores the anima to the Christian church, not as an icon, but as the altar itself. The altar is the place of sacrifice and also the receptacle for consecrated relics. Collected Works 9.1, paragraph 369 and 380. On the left-hand side, there is an Arabic word for daughters. On the order of the image is the following inscription. I'm not going to read the Latin for you, but it's translated here. But we speak of the wisdom of God in a mystery, even the hidden wisdom, which God ordained before the world unto our glory, which none of the princes of the world knew. For had they known it, they would not have crucified the Lord of glory. But as it is written, eye hath not seen, nor ear heard, neither have entered into the heart of man the things which God hath prepared for them that love him. But God hath revealed them unto us by his Spirit. For the Spirit searcheth all things, yea, the deep things of God. On either side of the arch is the following inscription. Spiritus et sponsa, that's Latin again. So the text is from Revelation 22:17. The Spirit and the bride say, come. And if him that heareth say, come, and let him that is athirst come, and whomsoever will, let him take the water of life freely. Above the arch is the following inscription. This is the title of a medical hymn, Hail, Virgin of Virgins. Okay. And then a footnote also reads, January 29th, 1914. Now, I just point out again that this was January 29th, 1914, again, about 6 months before the outbreak of World War I. And it is about 7 weeks after the beginning of Dr. Jung's visioning during his Red Book period, the Red Book Reader's Edition, which I'm referring to today. Okay, then there's another footnote here. I believe that you stand in a close connection with everything beyond. That's what the text says. And the footnote says, from this point in the calligraphic volume, Jung's coloring of the red and blue initials becomes less consistent. Some have been added here for consistency. And then on the following page, page 415, the text reads, but the serpent crept up to me quietly and wound herself smoothly around my feet. And the footnote reads, this line is not in Black Book 4, where the voice is not identified as the serpent. And then there's a footnote about the date, which is January 31, 1914. So apparently this act of imagination took place on 2 nights, January 29th and January 31st. Is that right? Yeah. Okay, so he took it up 2 days later, and then he said a meal is being prepared, quote unquote. And then the next text reads, a horrifying sweet thought to be both guest and a dish at this meal. In Mysterium Conjunctionis 1955-56, Jung noted, if the projected conflict is to be healed It must return into the soul of the individual, where it had its beginnings in an unconscious manner. He who wants to be the master of this descent must celebrate a Last Supper with himself and eat his own flesh and drink his own blood, which means that he must recognize and accept the other in himself. Then another text reads, madness and reason want to be married. The lamb and the wolf graze peacefully side by side. And the footnote reads, in Isaiah 11:6, the wolf shall dwell with the lamb, and the leopard shall lie down with the kids, and the calf and the young lion and the fatling together, and a little child shall lead them. And then there's another text sentence. I suppose you are mocking me, but tears and laughter are one. And the footnote reads, Jung's marginal note to the calligraphic volume, 14 August 1925, quote, this appears to refer to when this passage was transcribed into the calligraphic volume. In the autumn of 1925, Jung went to Africa together with Peter Baines and George Beckwith. They left England on October 15th, and he arrived back in Zurich on March 14th. Okay, then on page 416, the footnote reads, for example, one can say that you have fallen in love all the way from the worm up to Tristan and Isolde. And the footnote reads, the 12th century tale of the adulterous romance between the Cornish knight Tristan and the Irish princess Isolde has been retold in many versions, up to Wagner's opera, which Jung referred to as an example of the visionary mode of artistic creation. Psychology and Poetry, 1930, Collected Works 15, paragraph 142. And let's see. Okay, then the next footnotes don't matter because they both say that this sentence is not in the Black Book. So I don't exactly know what Dr. Shamdasani meant by that footnote. Maybe that he didn't, maybe that he added something. The sentence, the text sentence is, the serpent now became angry and tried to bite my heart, but my secret armor broke her poisonous fang. And the footnote says the sentence is not in Black Book 4. And then so that I should not, the serpent raised herself again as if accidentally, holding her tail in front of her mouth so that I should not see the broken fang, and proudly and calmly said, and the footnote reads, this sentence is not in Black Book 4, so I don't know the point that Dr. Shamdasani is making there. Okay, so that completes this section 2 of my reading of The Magician. I have 5 more segments to read in this section, and then I will have completed the entire reading of the Black Book, or the Red Book. So I hope you've enjoyed this. And so I'm going to, it seems that I've purchased tickets for my wife and mother, her mother and I, to attend a movie about good, or not a movie, a stage show about good and evil called Wicked. And I have seen this show once on Broadway with a business colleague, and it's quite good. And I really look forward to seeing it again with my wife and mother-in-law. So I have to depart. So I will see you again another time. Enjoy.